I know this will give me a lot of backlash and their fans will hate me for this prediction. What is going on, guys? My name still Fiago, and some of you might remember that I made my Champions League round of 16 predictions a few weeks back, and I received the usual comments like predict the opposite of everything Fiago says and you will win money, something like that, because you know I'm not really famous for making the best top-notch predictions out there. But this time I don't want to celebrate too early, but most of them have been going pretty well. I mean, still the second leg to go, but it has always been the case that in international competitions, Champions League, Europa League, Euros, World Cup, whatever you name it, I'm better than in league predictions. So there is no chance that you can run away from my Europa League round of 16 predictions. Let's go, I am hyped. It's not quite the Champions League, but for me the Europa League has always been a very underrated competition. It will forever be the Europa League's fate to stay in the shadow of the Champions League, but especially this season there's some really interesting teams in there, and I feel like it's even more unpredictable. We seem to be getting more surprise stories, more underdog stories in the Europa League every year than in the Champions League, obviously. For example, this season in the round of 32, 3 fairly big teams have already crashed out against smaller underdogs. Leicester City, Leverkusen and Napoli have all gone out against all the odds. But we're not here to talk about the losers anymore. We are not here to talk about who's gone out already. We are here to talk about the round of 16. Which 16 teams have still got the chance to win this still prestigious title, even though it's not the Champions League, it is a big title. And I'm pretty sure you don't have every single one of the 16 remaining teams in your mind right now up here. So I'm going to give you a short overview who is still in the competition. So first of all, we have 3 English sides from the Premier League still in the last 16. The 2 London sides, Arsenal and Spurs, have gone all the way from the group stages, while Manchester United were coming from the Champions League. Then we've got 2 Spanish sides, but not the ones you would necessarily expect, no Sevilla this time. But we've got Villarreal and surprise team Granada. From Italia, 2 pretty big teams, Roma and Milan. Then we've also got 2 sides from Ukraine actually, very surprising and interesting, and both were actually coming from the Champions League. Shakhtar and Dynamo Kyiv both got pretty hard groups in the UCL and both still managed to finish 3rd. Now we've got quite a few countries with 1 side still in the last 16, the Netherlands with Ajax also coming from the Champions League. Then Norway are bringing a surprise team in the competition, Molde FK. Dynamo Zagreb from Croatia are also in the last 16. Just like Slavia Prague from the Czech Republic after knocking out Leicester. And then my Greek friends from Olympiacos are also in the round of 16. Young Boys Bern from Switzerland still have some hopes for the title as well. And then one of the most interesting sides in European football this season, Rangers from Scotland. And last but not least, very difficult team to pronounce, but listen to me, absolutely no one from Germany. So now that you know the 16 remaining teams in the Europa League, without any further ado, let's get to my predictions with the first fixture. And we are starting immediately with a small banger, Roma against Shakhtar. One of those games that took me ages to make a decision to make a prediction. But hear me out, Roma are probably the favorites here. I think the bookies say it's 60% them and 40% Shakhtar. And I also think that the Giallorossi are much better than last season. One of my favorite Serie A players this season, Henrik Mkhitaryan, he's so great to watch. He was at Shakhtar too, by the way, but just a little side fact. Roma are going into this as the favorites, no debate. They are 5th in Serie A, fighting for a Champions League spot next season, while Shakhtar are only 2nd in the Ukrainian league. But for me, internationally, I don't know how they do it, but Shakhtar tend to have a certain spirit when they play in the Europa League or the Champions League. In Europe, Shakhtar always perform differently than in their domestic league. It's almost like they value European competitions much more than their league. Watch what they did to Real Madrid, they beat them twice in the group stages. I mean, let's not talk about the Gladbach games, but still, they finished 3rd in their UCL group over Inter. Also, it has to be said that Roma have a very inexperienced and error-prone defense. They have conceded the most goals out of all top 10 Serie A teams this season. So I can totally see Shakhtar's quick counter-attacking forwards putting a few goals past them. So I will say it's going to be a very tough and close game. On paper, Roma are better. They have more quality, they have more individual class, but Shakhtar have a new generation of Brazilian talents, that is always the case, but they also have that fighting spirit, that European spirit. I can't really explain it. I am going for the slight underdog here. Shakhtar are gonna take it for me. If I have to choose one, the Ukrainian champions are gonna go to the last 8 for me. Next up, we have a game that is probably way more obvious on paper. Tottenham Hotspur against Dynamo Zagreb. But I can tell you that Dynamo Zagreb are nothing like the weak, small team that you would imagine them to be. In the round of 32, the Croatian champions managed to knock out this season's Champions League side, Russian team Krasnodar. And that was a very convincing 4-2 on aggregate. They have some underrated quality in their squad as well, such as winger Mislav Orsic, goalkeeper Livakovic, and centre-back, I don't know if I pronounce him correctly right now, but Gvardiol, who's moving to RB Leipzig this summer for 16 million. They also comfortably topped their Europa League group ahead of sides like CSKA Moscow and Feyenoord Rotterdam. So by no means should you underestimate Dynamo Zagreb. But after all, I still think that Tottenham are gonna win this. Their individual quality is just levels ahead because, I mean, look at the budgets. It's just, you can't compare the two. I think the Spurs will advance to the last 8. But it's going to be a very difficult game, a very tough game, and Mourinho's boys will have to pull out all their tricks to wrestle down this Dynamo Zagreb side. Next up, 3 of 8, Granada against Molde. Arguably the biggest underdog fixture, as both of these teams surprisingly made the round of 16. Granada beat Napoli and Molde knocked out Hoffenheim. Let's talk about Granada. Damn, they got promoted to La Liga for the 2019-20 season, and I have to admit, I predicted them to go back down immediately. I'm sorry guys, but after all they finished 7th and reached Europa League qualification, and they have surprised everyone. And in this season's Europa League group stages they finished 2nd behind PSV Eindhoven. And what makes Granada so strong? It has to be said that they don't have a great attack, they don't score many goals, they scored 6 goals in 6 games in the group stages of the competition. But they also only conceded 3 goals in 6 games. So it is obviously their defense that makes Granada so difficult to beat for big sides. Napoli managed to score 2 goals in 2 games against them. Well, it wasn't enough after all, because they are also clinical in front of the goal. They don't create many chances, but they use most of them. So Granada really remind me of their fellow countrymen Getafe last season in the Europa League. Getafe knocked out Ajax with what Ajax fans would describe as anti-football, but it was successful and it was effective after all. And Granada for me are similar this season. Quick talk about Molde, I think they did well against Hoffenheim for sure, but it was rather the case that Hoffenheim missed 1,000 chances. They were very dominant, but they just couldn't find the goal. So I think the Norwegian side Molde can be very happy to be in this round of 16, and they deserve it, they played well. But I think this is the end for them. If you ask me, Granada are going to the last 8, and what a rise this would be. And now we're ending the first half of the fixtures with the best game on paper. What a banger! 15 years ago this would have been a Champions League final. Manchester United, the Red Devils against the Rossoneri Milan. Both of these iconic teams, after some tough times, are actually enjoying great seasons. Both are 2nd in their domestic leagues behind their city rivals, and both were first a few weeks back at the start of the year, but both have dropped a little bit in form. So I don't see either Man United or Milan winning their leagues this season. And this makes it even more exciting for us, because they're definitely gonna take the Europa League damn serious, because it's their biggest chance for a real title this season. Well, and I'm seeing a lot of arguments about this game recently. Many people back Man United, but there's also a considerable amount of people who say that Milan will beat them. And unlike most people, I'm actually pretty sure about this game. I don't want to get too confident, but I watch both on a regular basis, and I can say that Milan are not the Milan that we used to see 2 months ago. They don't have the squad depth necessary yet to compete in 2 competitions until the very end at the very top for a whole year. And although it could be well possible that Zlatan turns up against his former team, I'm really excited to see that, I don't think it will be enough for the Rossoneri. Don't get it twisted, Milan are still in a rebuild and they have overperformed for a majority of the season, so at the stage they are in right now, I think it's better for them to focus on the league and secure a Champions League spot for the next season, because that would already be a huge success for them, and I can't see them focusing fully on the Europa League and the Serie A top 4 race at once. It's just too much for them at this stage, if you ask me. So I predict the Red Devils to beat Milan and go through. Despite it being a close game, I think they will do it, and this would also mean after Roma, the second Italian team, gets knocked out, no Italian teams in the last 8. I would love to see it differently, but I think this is what's gonna happen. 4 done, 4 to go, and now we have Slavia Prague against the Rangers. Let me put it first, both of these teams are really dangerous in playing great seasons. Rangers tend to get all the praise on social media, I see it every week. Steven Gerrard's record with the Rangers, he hasn't lost a game yet. It is massively impressive, really. He hasn't lost a game yet all season, not even in Europe. People say Farmers League, but he hasn't lost in the Europa League either. Topped their group, then knocked out Antwerpen, Belgian side, and now playing Slavia Prague, who have knocked out Leicester. So who will come out on top in this fixture? Yeah, for me it will be another very tough game. You could put it either way. If Slavia Prague knock out Leicester, why wouldn't they be able to knock out Rangers? There is no reason. They can knock out Rangers for sure. And I think it's going to be one of the closest games. And I also see many goals here, to be honest. Many goals. But I've been saying it for a few months now, Rangers can go very deep in this Europa League season. Under Steven Gerrard, he's doing an insane job. Players like Morelos, Kent, Tavernier, and one of my favorites, Yanis Hadji, they are just growing so much, and Rangers are on a mission, they are on a journey, and I think they will also knock out Slavia Prague. Watch out for two really exciting legs. This is my dark horse fixture of this round. I'm definitely going to be watching this. And yeah, my prediction, Rangers, also partners of my club HSV, I've got to back them, are going to the last 8. No, just kidding, this is not the reason. They're just different this season. Slavia Prague, however, can't be underestimated this season. Very tough team to beat, and so this will really reveal if Rangers are in to go all the way this season. If they wrestle down Slavia, I think they can. Next up, we've got Ajax against Young Boys. Both of these have already knocked out fairly big teams. Ajax knocked out Ligue 1 frontrunners Lille, and Young Boys surprisingly put 6 goals in 2 games against Leverkusen to knock them out. Here I also had to think about it, reflect and analyze for a pretty long while until I could figure out who I'm rooting for. The Dutch champions Ajax are nowhere near the crazy underdog side that went to the semi-finals of the Champions League 2 years ago, and they have a lot of chaotic problems with players lately. Something that we're not used to see from them. Whilst Young Boys are a super clean club, no trouble whatsoever, 18 points clear at the top of the Swiss league by now. So they won't really have to worry about winning the league anymore. They can really focus on the Europa League, and that is what makes this fixture so close in my opinion. Yeah, after all, I also see a lot of goals to be scored here, since both of these teams have some of the best attacks in the competition. The thing is, how to beat Ajax is really, as I mentioned earlier, Getafe last season anti-football. So really peak Jose Mourinho, park the bus and just counter-attack, have 1-2 chances and score those. But this is definitely not the way how Young Boys like to play. They like to attack as well, scoring 6 past Leverkusen, so I think Young Boys will not approach the game like that. In the game that I expect, both teams going more or less all in, attacking each other, Ajax will prevail in my opinion. Even though Ajax are definitely no title favorites for me, have to say this, but I think they will still go to the last 8 after beating Young Boys. Dynamo Kyiv against Villarreal. This game completely killed my mind when I thought about who I was gonna predict to win. Honestly, I went back and forth so many times, changed my mind so many times, and here's what I think now. Dynamo Kyiv for me are a little bit underrated. I watched some of their games in the UCL group stages, especially those against Juventus, and most football fans won't know many of their players. And they lack top class individual quality, that is clear. But for me, they are not a team that you beat 5-0. They still have fighting spirit, they are top of the Ukrainian league this season over Shakhtar, and they beat Belgian top team Club Brugge in the round of 32. Remember, that is the team that almost went through in the UCL group stages ahead of Lazio and only missed out due to 1 single goal. They are a really strong side and Dynamo Kyiv beat them. So I think they have the potential to go through to the last 8. But then we have Villarreal. Currently number 7 in La Liga, they completely dominated their group stages, finishing first with 16 points and then beat RB Salzburg in the round of 32 4-1 on aggregate. Up front they have the likes of Paco Alcacer and Gerard Moreno, but their real strength, just like their fellow countryman Granada, lays in the back. Their centre-back Pau Torres is one of the best defensive talents across Spain. And Villarreal have only conceded 6 goals in their 8 Europa League games so far. So you see, the Spanish teams really seem to be liking defending nowadays. For me, it's going to be another very balanced game, and I can understand if you predict either to win. But after all, Villarreal are taking the win for me, and they will become the second Spanish team in the last 8. Good job, Spain. Defending is really your strength nowadays. So now we've come to a point where we only have 1 single game left, and this is one of the most anticipated games. Can you guess which game is still missing? Olympiacos against Arsenal. This is an iconic game, honestly. Last season, do you remember what happened? I'm just saying, El Arabi, last minute winner, Olympiacos. Yeah, the Arsenal fans were pretty shocked last year when Olympiacos managed to knock out Arsenal with an El Arabi goal in the last minute on extra times, and they won on away goals. But that is the past, we're now in 2021 and this exact fixture happens again just 1 round further in the round of 16. That is already a big win for Arsenal, at least they're not getting knocked out in the round of 32 by Olympiacos, but will they get knocked out in the round of 16 by the same team again? Well, Arsenal's season, as everyone knows, has been pretty difficult so far, but we have to admit that they are slowly picking up form. Like, they were really horrible at the start of the season, and now they are decent, they are really solid. They are slowly but surely starting to approach the top 6 or 7 in the Premier League, although I'm not sure if they're ever going to reach it. And in the Europa League, they completely dominated, we can say that. They won all their games in the group stages, although it wasn't really a hard group stage, then went up against Benfica, drew the first leg and won the second leg, very close with an 87th minute winner of Aubameyang. I think that was it. So you would also expect Mikel Arteta's boys to have learned from last year's shock defeat and not make the same mistakes again and now actually comfortably beat Olympiacos, right? Well, I'm not too sure about that actually. For me, Olympiacos this season are better and stronger than last season. They managed to finish third in their UCL group ahead of Marseille, which I predicted, I'm proud of that, but most people did not predict. And then they went on to beat a decent, solid and refreshing PSV Eindhoven side 5-4 on aggregate in the round of 32. It was a real thriller. Well, Olympiacos have some really interesting new players this season that are performing pretty well. Kenny Lala came from Strasbourg, you might know him from FIFA. Yanem Villa from Saint-Etienne and Bruma from PSV Eindhoven. And in addition, what most people didn't even notice, they've also signed Sokratis from Arsenal this January. So you know the Europa League is crazier and more unpredictable than the Champions League, but I haven't even had a lot of hot takes in this prediction yet. I'm not quite sure why, but somehow for this game I have a strong feeling in my gut. I know this will give me a lot of backlash and their fans will hate me for this prediction. But I have a feeling that history will repeat itself and Arsenal are gonna crash out against Olympiacos again. Yep, Olympiacos are doing this. They are going to the last 8. I don't know, I have a feeling. Let's go. I think they can do it, really. I think they're often being overlooked and of course they are the big underdog against a big Premier League side. Well, big Premier League side. And they will need to play a very physical game, a very destructive game, sit very deep and then focus on counterattacks, just like they did it last year. And I think they can do it again. So there you have it, my Europa League round of 16 prediction. These are the 8 knocked out teams. Yeah, according to my predictions, we will be seeing some pretty big teams crashing out early yet again. Roma and Arsenal out are probably my 2 hot takes that not many people will expect or will agree with me on. But that is how I feel, that is what I think, that is what I predict. And you know that international European predictions are rather my thing than league predictions. And if my prediction actually becomes reality after all, we'll be seeing these 8 teams in the quarterfinals. Shakhtar knocking out Roma, Tottenham having a close and tough game but finally winning against Dynamo Zagreb, Granada beating Molde, Manchester United being a little bit too strong for Milan, Rangers advancing against a very underrated Slavia Prague side, Ajax beating Young Boys Bern, Villarreal against Dynamo Kyiv, they will advance, and Olympiacos beat Arsenal yet again. So there you have it. I feel like Europa League predictions are even harder and tougher and trickier than Champions League predictions because literally anything could happen. Literally the opposite of my predictions could happen. Whereas in the Champions League also a lot can happen, we know that, but I feel like teams are even closer together here in the Europa League and that is what makes it so special. So there you go, now you know my prediction, my 8 picks, and as always I also want to know your opinion, what you think about my predictions. Let me know down in the comments, where was I wrong, where might I have been right, or did I just tell you absolute shit over the last minutes and you wasted your time? I don't know, I'm hyped for a healthy debate in the comments. With that said, I'm very hyped for the Europa League round of 16, definitely not gonna miss out on these games. Very underrated league. If you don't watch Europa League, I can only suggest you start watching it, it's really worth it, really. And I'm already excited for the day when I'll be reviewing those predictions combined with my quarterfinal picks. But that will still take some weeks and in the meantime, I'm seeing you guys in the next video. Well, last but not least, Fiago's out, peace.